It's 8:45 on a Sunday evening and I've just finished my 13-hour on-call shift in neurosurgery. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then welcome along. It's great to have you here. My name's Sarah, I'm a doctor in the UK and I make videos about my life as a doctor and also what I get up to in my free time. If you like this video, then hit that thumbs up button. Today I've been on a 13-hour on-call shift in neurosurgery. I vlogged my shift so you guys could come along with me and enjoy the whole shift with me. Hopefully you won't be as hot and sweaty as I am right now because I have been rushing around all day. I can't even tell you how much I'm looking forward to getting home and having a nice cool shower and a nice icy glass of water. You guys love hearing about my rota. I suppose it's quite interesting to hear the hours that doctors do. So this week I did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9.5-hour shifts. Then on Thursday I had the day off. But if you follow me on Instagram over at Dr. Sarah Nicholls, then you might have seen my story where I explained that I went into work by mistake on my day off. Went into the morning meeting at 7:30 this morning. Everyone looked quite surprised to see me and they were like, "Aren't you meant to be off today?" I was like, no, I'm here today, here tomorrow. And then they were like, "But what about your working at the weekend?" And I was like, "No, I'm not working this weekend." Checked the rota, I'm meant to be off today, and I'm on long days this weekend, 3 13-hour shifts that I didn't realise I was doing. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I've done 13-hour shifts, and then I've got one more shift on Monday, which is a 9.5-hour shift, and then I've got a few days off. So it's been quite a long week by any given standards, and I am so ready to get home and relax. Well, I'm back in work at 7:30 tomorrow morning, but we can forget about that for now. Anyway, I thought I could take you guys along for my shift with me. I know you've really enjoyed watching my vlogs before, and I'll link some down in the description box below if you'd like to see some more vlogs of what I get up to at work. But today has been a heat wave. Anyone that lives in the UK or in other parts of Europe, I know a lot of you guys in other parts of Europe have had it hotter, but boy is it hot today. It reached, I don't know what temperature, but my hair has done its crazy thing that it does in the humidity. I swear I looked nicer than this when I got up this morning. Patients have stayed cool, hopefully, and that's the main thing. They bought all the patients these electric fans to put by their beds. For some reason, QMC is a fantastic hospital in Nottingham, but for some reason we haven't quite reached the 21st century yet in terms of air conditioning. So we're using fans and the old-fashioned method of keeping the windows open to keep cool. And on one ward, they even turned off all the lights to keep it cool. I personally took in a thermos of iced coffee with me, and I made sure that I drank several bottles of icy water. But when you're wearing gloves and apron most of the day and rushing around a million miles an hour like I was today, you do not cool down. Whenever I got really hot and flustered, I would go and just run my hands under the cold tap for a few minutes, and that would just really cool me down, because I don't know if you know this, but when you get hot, your face and your hands vasodilate. I don't know if you've ever noticed when you get really hot, your veins come up on your hands quite a lot. And that's your body's way of trying to release heat. So if you run your hands under the cold tap when you're feeling really warm, it's a great way to cool down. And anyone that works in a hot environment, I would recommend that. Anyway, today was a busy shift. We started the day by going to handover. That starts at 7:30 in the morning. I'm on call, so I get given this pager so that the nurses can contact me for any emergencies or if they need a patient review. All of the patients from the night shift get handed over to the day team, aka me, another junior doctor and a registrar who's a neurosurgeon, and then we go and see every single patient on the neurosurgery list, and that's called ward round. There are 2 neurosurgery wards, a post-operative unit, as well as patients on the high dependency unit and intensive care. So ward round really is a trip around the whole hospital, and I kid you not, the registrar wanted to run up and down the stairs, so we were sweating during ward round. From that ward round, we look at any bloods that have happened from the previous day, and we look at any scans that have happened as well, and we see if there needs to be an update to the management plan of those patients. We then generate a jobs list. The other junior doctor and I, Paul, we found this roof terrace in the hospital which we did not know existed before, and we went and wrote the jobs list up there after ward round to have a little break, because we knew it was going to be a busy day and we didn't think that we would necessarily get another break later. This is what our jobs list looks like. We've got little sections for each of the type of jobs, and then we populate it with the patient's names and the jobs that need doing. And then throughout the day, we just work from that list and try and crack through all of those.
As well as working through the jobs list from ward round and answering any bleeps that come through, it's also the job of the on-call doctor to clerk any new patients that come into the department. So we had a couple of new admissions on this shift, and that means that I had to go through all of their past medical history, as well as examining the patients and having a look at any scans or bloods.
We had one guy that fell on some pavement and smacked the back of his head, and he ended up with a brain bleed, so we are keeping him in to monitor him. Did some bloods, did a cannula, prescribed him some medication, and obviously he was reviewed by the senior doctor. We also had another lady who was admitted because she had a previous subarachnoid hemorrhage, which is a type of bleed on the brain. Because she had an aneurysm in her brain, which is like a small outpouching of one of the blood vessels. That happened 5 years ago. She just came in today because she had a new onset of a severe headache, and we were looking to see if she's had another subarachnoid hemorrhage. She had a CT scan of her head, which didn't show any bleed, but she also needs to have a lumbar puncture to see if there is any blood in the cerebrospinal fluid, so that we can make sure that she definitely hasn't had a bleed that we just can't pick up on the scan. So she's staying in for that. Those were the kind of routine things that I was doing today. The thing that's quite difficult when you're a doctor is that you have this list of jobs that you're working from, and you start the day thinking, I'll work through these jobs systematically, it's going to be a good day. You kind of feel like you're constantly trying to keep up with yourself, and just as you feel like you're catching up, someone will bleep you about an emergency, or some nurses will come and tell you that one of your patients is deteriorating, and you just feel like you're never quite catching up. Every job you do, you end up with like 2 more jobs. So that can be quite tough. And today I had that exact scenario. I was getting to the point where I was feeling like I need to eat, I really need to have a big drink, and I really need to sit down and switch off for 20 minutes or so. Went and had my break and got myself a nice icy drink from Costa Coffee. And when I came back to the ward, literally I put my bag down, and as soon as I put my bag down, one of the healthcare assistants came running into the doctor's office saying that there was a patient seizing on the ward. So I ran down to that patient.
At this point, my adrenaline really kicked in, and as I was running down to the patient, I was trying to remember the algorithm for seizures.
Asked one of the nurses to grab the crash trolley. A couple of the really experienced nurses were already there, managing the patient really well. By the time I got there, the patient had stopped seizing, but his airway wasn't secure, so I stood behind him and held his airway open while one of the nurses put an NP airway in, and we worked as a team to kind of help this patient. I took an arterial blood sample from him, and we took him down to the CT scanner to scan his head because he's had a previous bleed on the brain, and we were wondering if that had got worse. And obviously we let my registrar know what was happening, and he came and saw the patient as well. So the patient became more stable. We found that he did have a bit more bleeding on the brain, but it was nothing that needed more surgery. He's already got a drain in his head, draining the blood, so it should self-resolve, and he's on medication to stop him having further seizures, which is good. Obviously, when you're dealing with an emergency situation like that, the jobs that you have still kind of are waiting for you to do. And also more jobs tend to pile up as well. Then we had a couple of patients who started to spike temperatures, so they need a workup for potential sepsis. We need to take blood samples, blood cultures, give them fluids. It was just quite a busy day because of all of those reviews. So we've got a patient who has a PICC line, which is a line going into her vein, which we can give long-term antibiotics.
And you can also use it to take blood samples without having to put a needle into the patient's skin every time. This patient is quite poorly and she needs blood taking every single day, so this makes it a lot easier and nicer for the patient. These bloods can't be taken by a phlebotomist, so a doctor has to do it. So that is my job right now. Whenever you're doing anything like taking bloods or putting a cannula in a patient, it's really important to make sure that everything is super clean for infection prevention. So we always make sure that we observe really good hand hygiene, wearing gloves, and making sure that all of our equipment is clean. After taking blood from this PICC line, my next job was to take someone's drain out of their head, and that is a drain that literally goes through the skull and next to the brain, so you have to be super clean with that, and it also involves doing some stitching. to close up the hole and make sure there's no bleeding or CSF leak.
I got to the end of the day trying to chase my tail. I didn't quite manage to finish all the jobs on the list, and obviously we were adding more jobs to the list. So when the night team came in, I had to hand over quite a lot of jobs. I stayed a bit later than usual to try and help out with it because it's not really that nice to hand over loads and loads of jobs to the night team. It's not really good etiquette to hand over certain jobs. Time for me to go home.
That last few hours of the shift absolutely wiped me out, and I can't explain how hot I am.
I'm always on a bit of an adrenaline high after a really busy shift like that, so I actually quite enjoy my commute home because it's just a chance to unwind. So now I'm going to go home and forget all about work. I'm going to listen to some good music on my drive home, and then I'm back in tomorrow at 7:30. This week's video is dedicated to Churchy Church because you actually requested that I do another vlog. So this video is just for you, and I also want to give a shout out to someone called Matt. Now Matt I bumped into on one of the units that I don't actually work on. I just went on there quickly to use a computer the other day, and he came over to me and asked if I was Dr. Nicholls because he's seen some of my YouTube videos, and that was actually the day that I mentioned where I went into work on my day off. So I was in a bit of a rush and I was a bit flustered, and Matt, it was great to meet you. I'm sorry I didn't stay to chat for very long, but let me know in the comments down below if you've watched this video, and I just wanted to say hi and thank you for saying hello to me that day. If you guys would like a shout out, then make sure you leave a comment below and maybe it will be you next week. I hope you've enjoyed this video, a little bit of an insight into a day in the life of a junior doctor. If you've enjoyed this video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more of this kind of content, then have a look in the description box below. I've linked some other videos you might enjoy, or you can check out my playlists and see plenty of other vlogs, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!